Hello, my 577 research students. How are you? Today we are continuing our process in the introduction to scientific research process. We learned so far about how to write a research problem statement, and we learned how to design our research questions by trial and error and discussions. And I'm going to add under a new folder I'm going to call review folder, which are important things that I'm going to create for you just to charts or quick tips on how to write a statement, a problem statement, just from what I've seen with you guys and with your research paper so far, the first abstract and the statement of the problem. I collected some points that I wanted to write it down and make it as tips for you so that when you're reviewing for your last or final paper, you can go to this folder that's called review under content area, and then you can pull up the tip on how to write a problem statement, just to make sure that you're writing it well. And then you're going to look at tip 2, which is do's and don'ts of writing research questions. And then we'll keep adding to that folder of tips how to write methodology, but I'll need to wait until I see your errors on your abstract 2, which is your first, or 2 and 3 and 4 actually, which will be the design parts. You're going to try to use the different designs that we're going to study and implement your research paper into this design and see how it goes. So you're experimenting. Remember, this research course is all about an introductory to experimenting through and exploring through research methods. What is research? What are the elements in a research? How can I write them? This is just an intro for you to explore around. And of course, you're not going to have time to implement your research now for the purpose of this course, but you are going through every step until we get to the results or analysis. You're going to do a hypothetical analysis of what you're going to do or use in order to analyze your data, but then you're not going to write a discussion or findings chapter or whatever to tell me your findings and results, because you're not going to implement your research. So just wanted to make sure that you know that we are experimenting through the research process, the research steps, the elements in a research, experimenting your topic into the different designs and see which design fits it best and fits your interests best too. And then for the findings part, we're going to leave it. Maybe one day you're going to go to a research, qualitative research or quantitative research class where you're going to actually implement your research later on in your progress towards your master's. But so far you're doing great. I read your papers. The majority did a wonderful job. Just few needed some edits, but nothing major, and I'm very, very proud. And I had to make a moment and a stop to express that I am very proud of you, and you've been working really hard to figure out elements of research and scientific research process, and so far you're doing great. Today we're continuing on quantitative research, and I hope that the videos helped you. Last time it was more of an intro of what is quantitative research, what are the different designs, and today we're continuing on that. And I created this graphic organizer for you right here to explain to you the 3 different types of designs under quantitative research. There's this descriptive quantitative research design, there is an experimental quantitative research design, and there is a quasi-experimental research design. Now, for the descriptive, we're not going to focus on a little bit for now, because it's very close to many of the elements in a qualitative research, and since it doesn't have any treatment, it doesn't have intervention, it doesn't have variables, so it really misses the core points of a quantitative. Just uses surveys and case control or observational data. So we're not going to focus on this section in this course, but we're really focusing on the most and infamous two types of quantitative research design, which are the experimental and quasi-experimental. Both experimental and quasi-experimental share that they have interventions or treatments, and they have variables, which are the dependent and independent variables that you manipulate throughout the research, basically. Now, the difference is that in the experimental research, you have something called randomized control trials, and that's when you actually use specific 3 steps in your research. But in the quasi-experimental, you're not going to find this, and we're going to discuss it, I think, next week or so. But let's focus on the experimental design, which the best case scenario, there are 3 types of experimental design, and you're going to watch a video on that I'm going to show you in a minute. But the most powerful experimental design is the randomized control trials. Under that, there are 3 elements. You have to have intervention, you have to have control groups, and you have to have random sampling. We're going to discuss random sampling under sampling and tools in Module 3, so we're not going to worry about sampling yet. We're going to discuss the different kinds of sampling when we get to Module 3. So basically, in the experimental research design, quantitative research design now, we want to understand that there has to be an intervention or treatment, and there has to be control groups. That's basically the randomized control trials. Now, let's see. After we look at this graphic organizer, it kind of maps for us the 3 different designs within the quantitative research methodology. We talked about the importance of experimental and quasi-experimental, and what makes it experimental and quasi-experimental is the existence of a treatment or treatments and variables. We'll narrow the focus down again to experimental, and we'll talk about the 3 different types when you watch the video of experimental, but I'm focusing on the most powerful one, which is the randomized control, and even the 3 different types under the experimental still use these 3 important elements in its design, which has to have a treatment or intervention, there has to be a control group, and there has to be some sort of sampling, and it's usually random sampling. Okay, now let's go to the steps that we talked about to keep us narrowed down and focused. We said that the process of writing the research paper has to have an introduction, and when you write your introduction for your final paper, please write excessively a background on your topic. But for your abstract papers, you're only focusing on what we're working on. So if you are doing the literature review, you only want to cut this piece Just tell me the question. What was the question as a title here under literature review? Just to remind me, for me, what was the question? And then you're going to write only about the literature review. Okay? For the methodology, please just write this part with a reminder of your question. Okay? So the steps are, you write an introduction, statement of the problem, and you're going to give me details on why is this problem important, what is the story actually of the problem, and why is it important, and how are you going to make a difference, or you think you're going to make a difference. And then here you're going to connect your question with the statement and then state your question. And then under the literature review, I don't want you to summarize what you've read in different articles or researches, but in fact, you are connecting what you talked about here with what research says. So you're going to say more about your topic with support from research. You're going to say, this and this happened whenever this and this happened, and according to whoever the author is, he found that, and then you say what he found in support to your statements. Okay, so you're connecting what you want to prove here and from the background here with the literature that you read here. Okay, let's come to the methodology, and you're going to be writing this first abstract, or the first part on the first design. This time you're going to write on the qualitative experimental design. So in the methodology section, you usually introduce here what is the research design that you're going to use for your research. For the purpose of this paper, we are focusing on quantitative research design, right? And then most importantly, it's on experimental design. So you're going to explain to me how your research is a quantitative experimental design, blah, 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 and you're going to describe it. And only for the example of the design number 1, which is the quantitative, I did a mistake once, and I wrote down qualitative, and I think I confused somebody. I can't remember who it was, but you know yourself. So it's a typo. I apologize. Quantitative. Okay, so the first design that you're going to write is quantitative. I'm going to add to it every time we're going to write on a design. I'm going to write to you the headings and subheadings that you should write. So under methodology, if you are writing an experimental quantitative research design, then these are your headings and subheadings. You're going to talk about the variables. You're going to talk about the intervention and treatment and control group under the variables here, and then you're going to discuss validity. Okay? When we do a different design, I'm going to write you design number 2, and if it's highlighted, it means that it's only the first option. Okay, so when you're writing your final, you're taking one of the designs, only choosing one design from these, and you're going to extract it to your final paper. But for now, you're experimenting each of these designs in different abstracts. Okay, I hope I'm explaining myself well. Please ask me any questions, email me, and I'll reply to you right away. But here, that's the first design that we're going to explore, which is experimental. I attached videos here to this document, and this document will be added under this week's work. Every time I add something, I'll put it under the new week that we're adding to. So you are going to tell me about your experimental design under this introductory methodology part. please watch this video. It's going to tell you more about the three types of experimental design, which one of them is the randomized controlled trials, and then there's randomized block trials, and there's matched pair trials. You're going to watch the video, very self-explanatory, and it's fun. I thought it's more fun to explain it this way than me lecturing. Then you're going to start with the first subheading under methodology, which we call in APA formatting, it's heading 2. So this is heading 1, this is heading 2. You're going to explain to me the variables of your research. And in here, you're going to basically discuss the dependent and independent variables through restating your research questions. So you're going to say, my research question focuses on, and then you state your research questions, and then you say the variable or the variables here, the dependent variable here is blah, 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 and the independent variable here is, and then you identify your independent variable. Okay? And then for this experimental variables, you're going to explain to me what kind of treatment or intervention that you want to add in under these variables, the dependent and independent. So you're going to explain it, and you'll find explanation here under, I think it's the first video. This first video is going to explain the 3 different types of experimental, and then it's going to explain what is a treatment, an intervention, and what is a control group. It has graphics, pictures, and it gives examples. So I think you'll understand it, and from the reading. So the intervention or the treatment is what you are actually proposing in your research, that it will be the solution or the best case scenario to achieve the success of your research, right? And then your control group is different than the experimental group. The control group is what you're going to have that control group that you're going to expose them to the treatment, and then see what happens after you implement the treatment or the intervention. In the section on module 3, when we discuss the sources and the analysis, you're going to connect now what you did with the control group and how you collected the data and how you're going to analyze it. So it's going to be in module 3, so don't worry about it. Right now you're just showing me what are the parts in your research that identifies these concepts. What is the treatment in your research? What is the control group in your research, and how are you going to implement the treatment? Okay, and then the final piece that you're going to write in this paper is the validity. You're going to discuss and watch this video. It's again, it's a little bit longer than these two, but it discusses internal validity with giving excessive examples, graphics, so it makes it more appealing. And because these concepts are heavy, the reading is straightforward and I can lecture it, but again, the video will explain it in details more. And you're going to write under here, you're going to discuss the high validity of your research. Why does it have internal validity if you think it does? Or if you think that there might be some common validity threats, you need to discuss it as well and tell me what are the common threats that you think might occur while you're conducting your research. Okay, so basically in an experimental research design, you want to make sure that you understand these terms and what they mean. What is an experimental design? This is the first thing you want to understand. what are what are the variables in your research question, and knowing this, it will make you even design a stronger research question. So you're going to tell me what are the variables and how are you treating these variables through your treatment or intervention. How are you going to choose your control group? Who are your control group that are going to take the treatment? And then the internal validity or external validity of your research. And external validity usually deals with the generalization of the results of the experiment. So generally, the more extensively the results can be generalized, the more useful your research is. If it's not generalized, if it's a case related, then you need to state this as an external validity. Okay, so I hope this explains this section right here. We're at this part, and this explains what you're going to write, and these 3 videos will explain to you the content in more visual way, and I organized it for you this way in order to kind of visualize and organize the information and categorize them under headings and subheadings. Please feel free to shoot me an email with any questions. Make sure that you're going in order. So you listen to the video, and it would be great if you do the videos right after I finish the video. This way you connect what I said with what you read in or watched in the video. Make sure that you have a notebook, paper, and pencil to write notes down from my video and from the videos that you're going to watch. And please feel free to reorganize the way that you like it for each lecture. Remember, online courses is basically self-teaching courses where the instructor facilitates knowledge. I collect information, I design it, I organize it for you, and I discuss it with you, but you do the majority of organizing the information for yourself. So I'm trying my best to organize information. I'm trying my best to explain to you the basic steps of research and what you need to be doing. But after each lecture, within each lecture that I'm giving you through my YouTube lectures and the videos that I provide for you to watch, collect that, write notes, and make your own sense of the topic, and please discuss this. There's no assignment, of course, on the discussion board for this week. I read through all of your posts on Blackboard. I just need to give feedback when needed because it was basically writing down concepts and terminology, and I want you to keep this. If you can print it and have it with you as a hard copy, or if you can save it and download it and save it in your soft copy folder for important terminology, because quantitative and qualitative research designs, when you come to the design, there are many terminologies and concepts that you need to understand well in order to be able to write about them later in your paper. So make sure that you're keeping up with these terminologies. So your homework, your homework for this week is to read the chapter, watch my video, then watch the 3 videos that I included here in the steps that you're going to find under this week's folder, and write your notes, organize yourself, and then start writing this abstract on only methodology. Do not write everything here. Some of you did write everything when they gave me the literature review. I appreciated it. It helped me to see more of your thoughts, but really you only need to write the section that you need to be focusing on. And then in the final paper, you're putting all together to finish this whole final paper with, of course, a selection of one of the highlighted designs that we're going to add on to along the way until we finish the module 2 designs. Okay, hope this helps. Please email me if you have any question, and good luck. You have all the way until Monday midnight, which is the morning of Tuesday. Let me know if you needed extension for any reason. I need to know why and what happened, and of course I'll be understanding, but I don't think you'll need it because you passed the most difficult part, and I think the coming are more adding into it and exploring around and having fun with your content, to try new things and new designs. All right. Keep me posted and keep it up with the hard work, please. Thank you.